some paint work right there. Nope, criminy.
Okay, and so that was weird. The mouse moved and the screen went away. But anyway, Mike is joining me today because I had to twist his arm to talk.
I know. I'm so busy.
He's so busy. Yes, me too. Well, I am busy. I'm just taking a break. But we thought it'd be, and hopefully this will become something that we do on a regular basis. It's just kind of pick a topic and then like do top 5 things. And so Mike suggested crossovers. I said, okay.
Yeah, it's a good one to start with, at least. Although I did my list by just starting to go through a bunch, and I was telling Siri to add them to a list, which was hilarious.
So go ahead.
No, yeah, I told her all the names to add on there, which of course she translated perfectly, and then just kind of systematically kind of like busted down to like 5. But I did get some nice gems such as Secret Umpire.
Umpire. he's the guy who's hiding behind the regular ump.
Yeah, it's a very different event series than Secret Empire.
All right, so just I guess we can just kind of jump in, and I'll let you go with your first one that you kind of whittled down to top 5.
Yes, I put them in an ordered round, so I guess I'll talk about them in that respect. But I mean, it's so hard to move them around because they're so different. But my first one was probably my first event, and while I wanted to try to stick to ones that were like like, oh, this is this one. It's 8 issues of this. This is the event. But I broke that in the first one with Onslaught.
And I think that was one of the first X-Men things I read when I would either go into my older brother was the Marvel collector and the X-Men and all that, and so I would read his comic books as they came in.
Yeah, just as with most events, there's usually like Onslaught had like a pretty decent build-up, kind of just teasing all of this stuff, at least through the X books. And then when it exploded, it took over the whole Marvel universe.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, the 2 big ones for that, besides like the event or kind of all the tie-ins to it, was they're 2 oversized issues. It was Onslaught XMen, and then Onslaught Marvel Universe, both drawn. And I'm guessing on this one, I get the 2 Kuberts mixed up a lot, and I want to say it was Adam Kubert.
Yeah.
And I mean, it was gorgeous at the time. It was, I feel like, especially Marvel events, as leading up to that time and even through the 90s, they didn't change anything. Like Infinity Gauntlet did nothing other than, oh, we're going to have a Warlock book.
Yeah.
And like all the Infinity stuff. And then this one just, I mean, you get to the end of this thing and it's like, oh, the Avengers, Fantastic Four, and the Hulk and Iron Man are just gone. They're dead. It was messed up. It just like totally blew my mind at the time. I probably read those issues like just over and over and over again.
Well, at least they got better.
Yeah. I mean, of course, but it's just like at the time, it was just like, because I mean, those books ended. I mean, even like for like Age of Apocalypse, like those books stopped. The new books came out, but then eventually the books all came back to the regular numbering and everything else. Whereas like, oh no, like Avengers is done, Fantastic Four is done. You're like, and before the internet was as wild as it is now, you're just like, what's gonna happen now?
Yeah.
And then we get Heroes Reborn and all that stuff. But it's like at the time I had no idea. You're just like, what is happening? It just felt like this huge, massive change, especially as young as I was God, I must have been like 12 or 13. God only knows. It's not like I could look it's not like I could have looked any of this up.
Well, as I was putting together, thinking about my list, I one of the first things that I thought were some of the in the summer. I don't know if you know how DC kind of like used to do their 5th week event, and they'd have a big universe line crossover,
Like the
and like
Joker's
Final
last,
Night, or
Joker's Last Laugh.
yeah,
And, some
which
of those are interesting.
yeah, and I want to say Final Night was probably the one that was the one I picked, but it was kind of interesting because it was supposedly when Hal Jordan sacrificed himself to reignite the sun, and this is after 0 Hour, where he was like the bad, still the bad guy, but no, I tried to I don't think for that one I don't think I read all the crossovers and the different titles, how they would do that, but I think I read most of them, or at least have most of them that would. Again, those are things that I would hope maybe eventually like to do, like for a binding project. I think it'd be cool to do.
Now, was the Sun Eater involved? I'm trying to remember.
Yeah, that was the Sun Eater. The Sun Eater came to Earth. It was eating it, like devoured the sun. Superman was losing his powers. It was, it was like eternal. It was going to be eternal night. The Earth was getting really cold, and all the superheroes were, like losing hope. And
yeah, it's one of those things like what do you do to reignite a sun? Like, hey, we can beat up any guy you throw at us, but it's like you can't beat up the sun into coming back.
And then I don't know if you seen it. I saw it. I got to talk to Ron Mars about his run on Green Lantern, and it was kind of around that time. And I remember it was the following issue of Green. I don't know if it was still his run or not, but it was like the 50th. It was like where they all got together to pay tribute to Hal Jordan and Batman. At the end of the book, it's just Batman kind of on the side of the page going, I didn't agree with Hal, but I guess he's an okay guy sometimes.
Yes, the start of Hal Jordan's recuperation. It's okay. It was all retconned. It was never him to begin with.
Yeah. So what's your next one? I'm guessing it's Marvel.
I mean, I definitely have. I think. Let me see. I have 3-2 on Marvel to DC events, but it was close. I had a lot of things that barely made it. My number 6 is a combination of probably Identity and Heroes in Crisis.
Okay.
I had a hard time cutting those because they're extremely emotional, but I did like all those, and I wanted to include Onslaught just because no one talks about Onslaught. But my number 4 is probably the most recent of these, and it will again be no surprise. Was the House of X, Powers of X stuff.
Yeah. Okay. I don't think I ever. I vaguely remember, but I forget the premise behind it, I guess.
Well, it was. I mean, they're trying to the whole the emergence of Krakoa.
Okay. That.
Yeah, the recent one. Not
okay.
I was gonna say, I'm like pretty sure we both read it. Like it's not like a year ago.
That one. Sorry.
That's fine. I had House of M on here, and I kept kind of.
Maybe that's what I thought it was.
I almost started to. If I had gave myself more time, I was gonna reread House of M just because like. I remember enjoying it, but it didn't like blow my mind at the time, and I wanted to kind of go back to it, but there's just not enough time.
Mm-hmm.
But House of X, I mean, they found they somehow found an amazing way to add a ton of stuff to the X-Men history without, in theory, changing any of the X-Men history through the Moira and the rebirth, her new mutant power.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, okay, yeah, I remember that.
And
how she's kind of trying to change history or the outcome, or right?
yeah, because essentially, like, yeah, in her first life, she just kind of she lived, and then she died, and then she started over again, and then she kind of saw that she could, like, hey, I could just let this roll exactly as it did before, or I can try to make things better or different, or try to understand. And she eventually figures out she's a mutant at gunpoint, and is made to, like, yeah, you need to help us. And then through her next bunch of lives, it's like, she tries it Xavier's way, then she tries it a different way with him, then she tries Magneto's way, and then she tries Apocalypse's way, and then we finally get to the current timeline where apparently they've been waiting till now to go nuts. But they do the cool thing of, because so much of the story is being told out of order, they're going out of their way to try and mislead you, and think that certain characters might have these more like sinister things, and they actually do. And it's just to kind of keep you on edge. I mean, when you get to the end of it, it's like, oh no, that thing was cool, that was fine. Like, they start that book off with the Xavier with the pods around him, and the X-Men coming out of the pods, and then that's not talked about for like the next like 7 of the issues that come out. You're just like, what happened? What was going on there? And it's like, oh no, they just flash forwarded and showed you something from, like, House of X5.
Yeah,
But we didn't know where it was in context, and it's just there to make you think that there's some messed up shit going on with Xavier. Or the different timelines, they make you think it's the regular timeline, but no, this is one of Moira's, old lives. And also, just the art is just fantastic. Those books came out on a weekly basis with fantastic art from, and I'm totally forgetting right now. Not directly important right now, but just like, just fantastic art from top to bottom. Hickman's story, he introduced the whole thing where all of his information pages, kind of his like way of like, how long this story would take if I had to explain it all with word balloons, and just kind of like, here's some infographics, here, you get the idea now, I've explained it,
here's a couple pages of exposition.
Yeah, and it's one of those things that I appreciate it a little bit, because yeah, if you just had to explain it with word balloons, you could spend an entire issue on just one of those topics. Whereas, like, here, I did it all on this page. We can move on now. I told you exactly how it works. There's no questions. Moving on. and just the fact that those books are just the setup. And it was just, especially for the X-Men being very much kind of not in a lot of prominence at Marvel, and just the stories weren't, those books were not burning up the charts for a good while. And it's crazy, because the X-Men were running things especially at Marvel, for a long time before the Avengers kind of resurgence. I mean, hey, I want them both to be amazing, but it's just crazy when you see over like where X-Men was and where Avengers was, and then that like massive shift, which was cool. But then it's like, hey, I still want good X-Men stories, and they just got kind of thrown around by editorial. And then now it's like, oh no, now they're now they're on top again. It's their turn.
Good. I don't think I read. I think I started trying to read some of the stuff once the initial 2 things ended up, but then it just kind of got a lot of overload.
I mean, they up until the COVID situation, it was, I mean, every week, if not one book, there could be 2 books. There's one week where every book other than X-Men itself came out. It's literally like 4 books. And like, hey guys, I'm loving this, but you could space this out.
Yeah.
Like I'm cool with 1 book a week or 2 books a week. That'd be fine. Instead of like why is there got to be a week where like 4 or 5 issues come out of all the different books? I'm happy to read it, but it's just a lot.
Yeah.
And this has kind of slowed it down.
Well, so I think my next one would be Infinite Crisis.
That's I figured this one would come up.
just because there's like for the longest time they were saying, oh yeah, we're going to be doing this. There's going to be it's going to be the follow up to Crisis on Infinite Earths, and it's going to change the status quo in the DCU, and we're bringing back the multiverse, which is always a good thing in my opinion.
I just think spoilers. That was my number one. Just because the build up to that book was so fantastic. Like between the four miniseries leading up to that, like stuff going on in Teen Titans and other places around the DC universe, it just had that feeling everywhere of like, man, everything keeps getting wilder. What is going to happen?
Well,
And then,
I like the way they did it. Like they brought in the Secret Six. They explored the mystical corner of the universe and tied it in. They did the outer space stuff.
They just covered everything. It was just so good. And again, like the end of that first issue, who saw that coming?
Yeah.
Like, because you're just sitting there like, man, this is getting real bad. And man, the Batman, Superman, and Wonder Woman are all really pissed. And Uncle Sam just got like jacked up. And then all of a sudden, Old Man Superman and like the remnant characters from Crisis show up and just like, what? Yeah. It was just such a cool thing of they were able to hide that reveal till that moment, because it was just a genuine, just like, because then you're just like, oh, I have no idea what's going to happen in this book.
Yeah. And I would say that nowadays that that probably they wouldn't even be able to contain that reveal.
It's so hard in this day and age. I mean, I'm trying to think of like what was the Wally West book when he came back?
Oh, Flash Forward?
No, like when he got the Rebirth special.
Rebirth. Okay.
Like that was like a good one of, man, who is this returning character? And
well, that I think that had a couple kind of oh crap moments, because you had Wally West coming up, and then you had the the whole we're bringing in the Watchmen, and it's
that was the big like crazy
Dr.
thing at the end.
Yeah, Dr. Manhattan is supposedly the person who screwed up everything, and unfortunately I feel they dropped the ball later. But
it's funny just because like DC is they're the only company that can blame its editorial problems on like somehow like blame them on characters in the universe. Like, oh, we didn't like this editorial decision. Oh, Dr. Manhattan did it. It wasn't us.
and now the world is slowly going back to what it was.
It's that whole thing is
but now we're bringing Perpetua in.
I mean the first issue of Death Metal I thought was really cool, and if for the way they're talking about that book and what that first issue made reference to, I'm excited about it. I just hope it just seems like it's gonna get out there like Dark Knight's Metal did, which I really like that story, but man, it gets wild in the middle.
I still gotta get. I started it. I just haven't had time to sit down and really digest it, because it's like that. And what was it, the one before that, the Batman Last Night on Earth or whatever.
Yeah, I figured on that one. I was just gonna, because that one seemed pretty self-contained. So like that one, I was just like, I'll wait till that's a big hardcover. I'll read it then. I wasn't like clamoring at that moment of just like, because DC's been putting out like a ton of these prestige, like the Black Label type books. Like there's like 2 Harley ones at the same time.
And then there's Jeff Lemire's Joker.
Yeah. It's just like they've been putting out a ton of those, and like then that was coming out, and it's like, hey, that book ain't going anywhere. That'll be a nice hardcover. Pick that up and read it later. But yeah, it's Metal I was keeping up with, and it was just like, and they have a map for it, but that book also hits Final Crisis levels of nonsense at some point.
I was writing a news piece for one of the places I write news for, and it was the story about the new Batman, the Batman Who Laughs new world and the map, and that kind of looks really, really cool.
Yeah, I mean, I'm excited for where this is going. I think Snyder can get to Morrison levels, but it's still at least I can understand it. It's just it'll just take a couple minutes, whereas like Final Crisis, when Superman whistles reality back into existence at the end of that is just, how did we get here? What happened?
So, well, we kind of got off. Well, this is fine that we're just kind of
yeah.
But so, what was your next one?
Let's see. My next one was Blackest Night.
Okay, yeah.
Blackest Night. I mean, DC had a decent string from like Infinite Crisis. I could have put Sinestro Corps War, but I was trying to keep it to like again, other than the first 2 that I did that had their own self-contained series, and like Blackest Night is just that. I feel like we had a very good idea what to expect going in, as far as like, yo guys, this is going to be bad. And then it got really bad. They were able to pull like a lot of history, because they just brought back like every dead, character, and used their emotions, both good guys and bad guys, against the heroes. And again, just a fantastic build-up from Sinestro to Blackest Night. Just like the little teases here and there, kind of slowly and steadily getting us there to where you're just like, all right, it's about to explode. And then
I don't even though it kind of, after with Brightest Day, which I enjoyed, because first off, we got Swamp Thing back.
Oh, it's another thing that makes like Blackest Night really good, is again like the build up I think is handled very well, and then the aftermath with Brightest Day was just a great book. It's Aquaman, Martian Manhunter, Swamp Thing Rebirth, and
Maxwell Lord.
Yeah, Firestorm Rebirth, like all crammed into this one book.
It did get a kind of confusing, because I just remember they like each had like some mission they had to fulfill in order to stay alive or something.
Yeah,
and it's just like, okay, you just you gotta wait and see who how that plays out. And it just maybe, I think if I remember it, it seemed a little rushed at the end, I think.
I mean, as their weekly, that was like the DC weekly book at the time. And, well, yeah. Side note: another thing that made it Infinite Crisis great is it gave us 52, which is like one of the best books probably like DC's put out, at least in my opinion.
I liked how they kind of explored the different had a couple stories going at once.
Oh yeah.
And it didn't seem like either one kind of got a little didn't get rushed, or I'm sure if I were to go back and read it, then I'd probably catch maybe something that I felt got a little maybe dropped or neglected.
Oh yeah. Like
Anytime I can get more Animal Man.
yeah, like what a yeah. Animal Man. Oh God, who was it? Is Animal Man and
Starfire and Adam Strange.
Adam Strange. For some, I was thinking it was Booster Gold, but I knew that was wrong, and I'm just like, but yeah, like those three out in like the fringe of space with all kinds of wild stuff. But yeah, just Infinite Crisis and Blackest Night. Just DC does like when their events are good, they're so good. Marvel, I think, has like a lot of great concepts, but then they'll drop the ball, or like the classic example is Fear It. Like there was the Fear Itself event, where like it was a big cool event. I mean, Thor dies, Bucky Cap dies at the time, and you're like, oh my god, like so many crazy things. And then literally the week after the last issue of Fear Itself comes out, oh, here's the book comes back, they're fine. It just like they completely undercut their own event immediately after.
So what you're saying that the concept is a high concept but poor execution.
In a lot of cases, like Axis is another one that always like bugs me. Whereas I feel like they never reached like they didn't reach the cool stuff of it till like one of the last issues, because like that was all where all the heroes and villains, like essentially their moralities all got flipped.
Mm-hmm.
You see the good guys kind of start acting really like terribly, and it's like how we got like the infamous Iron Man for a while where he was evil.
Captain America left the toilet seat up in the Avengers mansion.
Yeah, but like the thing from that book that always gets me, and they don't do it to like one of the last issues, is the villains have to make the sacrifice, because like we know we have to go back to being dirtbags, but we have to because the heroes are just going to go nuts. And there's just one moment that always gets me, and it's like it's Sabretooth and Mystique, who have always been like a kind of a couple.
Yeah.
And they just have this moment together, whereas like I need to tell you this, and it's the first time I've ever been able to say it before, is that he loves her. And it was just heartbreaking. And like, why is this an issue 8 and not an issue like 2?
Yeah.
Like you get these like really amazing moral quandaries, and then we don't get to deal with it for very long. It's like you could have explored that with so many of these villains, and the opposite with the heroes. I apologize. My dog is the mailman came by probably.
No, that's okay.
But yeah, like so many Marvel events like that. But just because DC gives their events the ability to just change things wildly. Even if some of it may become undone, it'll at least last for a while until the next one where they'll undo it. But like, whereas because Marvel doesn't do so many of those like meta crossovers where they're changing their timelines and all this stuff, it's like we need this to keep going, and Cap can't be dead forever. You know, Thor can't be dead for very long because we need a Thor. I mean, they showed restraint bringing Thor back from like Avengers Disassembled till when he finally did come back, but it's like, but since then it's like nobody's gone for very long. And going back to Blackest Night, it was like they bring up the idea of like, oh, you know how all these heroes have been coming back all this time? I let that, like the bad guys essentially like, I let that happen. I let you out so that I could, get my tendrils out back into the living world. And just like taking all these things that, we groaned about as like comic fans are like, oh, he'll be back eventually, he'll be back in like, this one. It's like, okay, no, yeah. But again, these editorial decisions, it was Necron's fault the whole time.
Yeah. It was Alexander Luthor.
Yeah. It was his fault. Superboy Prime punched the magic wall too many times, and Jason Todd came back.
Why did this continuity change happen? Oh, because
a kid got mad and punched a wall.
Yeah.
Superboy Prime. Wow, I can't say words. Superboy Superboy Prime slips on a banana peel, and suddenly, there's a new firestorm.
I also kind of I really enjoyed DC Zero Hour, Zero Hour, because it was like, again, it was like
Crisis in Time.
what? Yeah, all the pages kind of whited out, and everybody's like, oh, it's we have a big bad guy, but oh no, wait, here's we're gonna dodge, and it's really Parallax. It's not Monarch or whoever.
Yeah, the freaking. But I mean, even at least again, it's like that one. It's like we can look back, and it's not like that happened. We immediately redeemed Hal Jordan. Like there was like a long period of time, and
oh yeah,
and it's just one of those things where like, hey, we want Hal Jordan back. We want Hal Jordan back, and you just see Jeff Johns like, give me a minute, I'll figure it out.
and when they decided to bring him back, it wasn't just like Hal walks into the Hal walks into the room, goes, "Hey guys, what's up?" No, I think that was probably one of my favorite parts of Green Lantern Rebirth, when I think it was in the first issue when they're like all sitting there watching the ball game, and John Stewart goes, "So when are you coming back?" And Hal goes, "I'm working on it."
I know they have like, it's like a moment like that. I think it's in Kevin Smith's Green Arrow run when like he dies or like he comes back, and there's like a moment where like Hal and him are chatting in heaven.
Yeah,
like weird shit like that. Like, we don't get that in Marvel very often.
He's like, "Yeah, you got to come back. I know you're happy here in your heaven, but you got to come back because there's a soulless corpse that looks like you running around."
What could go wrong?
Yeah, what could go wrong? And then they doubled down with it. That Hal was like, "Oh yeah, during final night, I swiped some of your DNA off Superman's cape, from when he was in the explosion, from when you were killed, and that's how I recreated it."
Yeah,
okay.
Talk about like hoops, like they had to bring up that specific like moment. Like you couldn't just say someone had his DNA on file.
And like Superman doesn't deep clean his capes, especially after an explosion.
Yeah,
just toss it in the corner.
You know how hard it is to clean Kryptonian fabrics. it uses that mode on your washer that you never use.
Well, first you got to find kryptonite, crush it up.
Yeah, you have to mix the detergent with kryptonite, but you can't use too much because then it'll kill.
Yeah, but
wasn't in the dryer long enough, and now Superman's dead.
So what do you say? Are we your second or top winner? What's your top Marvel one?
My top Marvel one is Secret Wars.
Okay.
Not the older Secret Wars, but the newer, because I'm a Hickman fanboy probably. That was my my top Marvel pick.
Yeah.
Just you got Assad Ribic at the top of his game, doing 12 solid issues of. I mean, that's another one where like it takes all of Hickman's Avengers run up to that point, and in the first issue, he destroys the Ultimate and Marvel universes. There's even a thing at the end of like Marvel Universe from 1964 to done. R.I.P. And like that's how they start the book. It's one of the ones where they really do almost like the DC level of like we're gonna blow it all up. We can change a lot of this thing, change things here and there. But I mean, we get Doom is kind of presented as the bad guy, but he's not the bad guy. Essentially, the heroes fail to save Earth. And so the whole universe is gone. and then Doom was able to save what he could and created like the battle world, which is like these like bits and pieces made up from like all these different multiverses, which gave us a lot of tie-ins we didn't need, probably. So there's a handful of them that were
we needed the 5 Deadpool books.
But it's, and just seeing like because there's like a handful of heroes and villains who survive the end of the universe, and then they arrive on the battle world, and to them it just happened. But it's like, oh, like we've been here for years. Like this, he's got a, oh god, I just remembered, it's like Doom's police force is just Thor's, like they're like the cops of their universe. Like by the we find out like this, like, why are there no stars in the sky? It's like, well, because there are none. The only sun we find out is like the Human Torch. He's keeping everyone alive, basically. And then like there's a wall, and beyond that wall, it's nothing but like Marvel zombies and Ultimate or Ultron creations. And like, oh, well, the only thing that keeps them is the wall, and you find out the wall is the thing, and he sacrificed himself to be this. And you get to the end of that thing, and you have the giant thing versus Galactus, and then Black Panther shows up with an Infinity Gauntlet and an army of zombies. It's just big, wild, crazy stuff, and they let it go for 12 issues, and it's just a banger, at least for me. I think that thing was just these big ideas. And again, getting 12 issues of Assad Ribic art, that's money in the bank. He's so good, and that's also how we ended up getting like we kind of brought the bits and pieces we needed or wanted from Ultimate Universe and kind of put them into the Marvel Universe. So we got Miles to come over. I mean, we at a time when Marvel they canceled Fantastic Four. They didn't want to have anything Fantastic Four related coming out because that the Josh Trank movie was coming out,
which is now on Disney Plus.
Oh, thank goodness. Finally. But like at a time when they were doing that, and this was coming out of Hickman's Avengers run, Secret Wars becomes a giant Fantastic Four story and like the biggest stage of them all.
Mm-hmm.
And I also love it for that, because it's like, oh yeah, it was an Avengers book, but now let's get down to business. It's really about Dr. Doom versus Mr. Fantastic.
Yeah, I think I read that in a lot of the tie-ins. There's a few of the tie-ins that were kind of sparked my interest.
Yeah, like they had a lot of cool, like, hey, if you want to try this weird little thing, here, try this. And there's some cool ones, but there were so many. There were just so many of them.
I think again, I don't know where we are on the list, but I think my favorite crossover is the JLA Avengers.
That I had that on my list for a little bit.
Because
it's such a cool book.
It is, and it's like, especially after the crap that like the Amalgam well, some of the Amalgam books were good. They were fun.
The DC versus Marvel book being kind of just like, it's okay.
Yeah,
it's cool they're there, but I mean, I wish it was better.
Now let's do it again with All Access.
Yeah. God, All Access. Talk about editorial being made into a character. Fucking Access.
But it's one of my favorite meetings of Batman and Captain America, because they're both the great tacticians, and they just stand there going, okay, are we going to do this? Because they're blocking each other's moves already.
Like the issue 4 cover is just like amazing. It's like a tattered Superman holding Mjolnir and the cap shield. You're like, woo.
and then you get like the different eras of both teams kind of intermingling, and it also goes back to the whole Crisis on Infinite Earths with Corona and.
I'm trying to remember. Was I think because that was when Morrison's JLA was going on. I want to say still.
It was either Morrison or Wade.
And Busiek was writing Avengers at the time, and they obviously let him kind of run. I mean, even for Busiek, he integrated that as part of his Avengers story. So as far as he's concerned, in his book, it definitely happened.
Yeah.
but also that book is just like it's such a great distillation of what both of those teams were in like the 90s, like the kind of the 80s and 90s. Just, I mean, with Perez's art, you can't help but like think of those eras. And then Busiek's been writing, a ton.
It had a very classic feel to it.
Oh yeah, and obviously Perez just murdering himself to draw that book, and like the cover with like every single Avenger and JLA member on it. You're just like, do you hate yourself? Like, give yourself. I can't even imagine how long that must have taken.
Well, it was the Comic Geek Speak guys that spent one whole hour long episode or so just on the cover, right? Is that right?
I think so. Just like one of those books that is like you never thought we'd get like a good version of this, and then it was really fun. It was really great. Just a celebration of, I mean, both of those teams in DC and Marvel universe.
Mm-hmm.
It involved all the weird like Marvel like cosmic, weird cosmic beings that I feel like at least I associate with the 90s a lot.
No, I agree, and it was just fun. And it was better done, a whole lot better than the amalgam stuff, which is like, oh, we're gonna let the fans vote.
Oh god,
yeah.
You can't vote on whether Quicksilver or the Flash wins. One of them has the damn Speed Force. Damn it.
And wasn't that what at that time couldn't Wally like he'd already learned how to like take speed away from things?
I can't remember.
I
think the slowdown stuff he got from Wallace. Wallace.
No.
I thought he got the adding speed to stuff. I didn't think he got the slowing stuff down till we got the Dark Flash or when Wallace came back.
That's a discussion for another time.
Top 5 favorite Flashes and why number 1 should always be Wally.
John Fox.
He's all right. He's pretty. He's a fun character. Yeah. Talk about stuff that's been erased from history. Oh my goodness. Yeah. I'm surprised he hasn't popped up in the Flash TV show. That seems totally up their alley.
Oh, I totally agree. Although I haven't finished the current seasons of the stuff. Once.
Okay, now the CW didn't finish the season either.
I haven't even started Stargirl.
I keep wanting to the Doom Patrol. I didn't realize season started. That show is wild.
Oh, which show?
Doom Patrol.
Oh, no, I haven't seen that.
I didn't realize season 2 had started up, and they're like 4 or 5 episodes in, and they're. I can't believe they're letting them do that show. It's just, it's so silly, but yet the characters are so strong and so emotional, and so like there's so much tragedy, while like the most insane things are happening around them. I had to start sending a couple clips to to my wife just because they were so ridiculous. Like, you're not watching this show, but here's a 5-second thing that's just the silliest shit ever. Like there's like a part where all these like Ghostbusters looking guys come through, and they're the XMen, and they're found a thing of there's too much sexual energy here, and they turn down a hallway. It's like, we're too late, sex ghosts. It was just like just a ridiculous 5 seconds, or they have Flex Mentalo in there doing some insane stuff, and then he's like, with great muscles comes great responsibility.
Yeah, that's one show I'd really like to check out.
I highly recommend. It's not for kids. I mean, they do some nutty stuff in that, but I can't believe DC is letting them make that show. It feels very Vertigo-y in that respect. Same with the Harley Quinn show. I was amazingly surprised with how much I liked that show. It's actually very funny in a way that I feel like most of these shows that try to be funny are just not. Because I went into that show like, I'll watch an episode. I got this decent, and then, oh, I really like this, and then then me and my wife were kind of both watching it. Like, it's just, I can't believe they let them make that show. They just let them do all kinds of crazy stuff.
Mm-hmm. Now that's on the DC Universe streaming thing.
It's on DC Universe, and I imagine it's Doom Patrol's also on HBO Max.
Yeah,
and it seems like they're going to start playing the Harley Quinn show on Sci-Fi.
Oh, okay.
Which is cool. I imagine heavily censored in some way. That is another one where they swear up a storm. They're murdering people. It's one of the most like they let Jim Gordon just be this like sad drunk through the whole show. It's just like really weird. Like, wow, I can't believe they let them take like some of these characters and just treat them like trash.
Well, did you see that they're going to be doing another like Gotham City police thing through HBO Max?
Oh no, I didn't see that.
Yeah,
like a Gotham Central type of thing, or
I don't know if the details aren't that much.
Yeah,
weren't there. It's just, I guess the guy who forget his name, who's doing the new Batman movie, it's part of his deal.
Oh, okay, that's cool. Yeah, I know I was confused because I saw like, Doom Patrol is going to be on HBO Max, and I was like, let me tell you, if I've got DC Universe, and if it's not on that, I'm gonna riot. Like, mm-hmm. if you need to get HBO Max to watch it, it's just that they're putting it on like everything, on all the services.
Well, that again, the topic for another time is, what do you think? Do you think that the DC thing will just eventually become for comic, like a comic, like Marvel does?
I feel like it should just, at least the TV, like the TV and movie part of it, like just fold that into HBO Max. Like, mm-hmm. Hey, it's just a part of this. Hey, if you got HBO Max, we also have this stuff. But the DC Universe stuff at least makes sense if it's just the DC stuff alone, because it does have the comic aspect to it. Mm-hmm. Like, Superman Red Sun is already on the DC Universe app, which I forgot had even come out. And they're doing like apparently they did Apocalypse War in the Justice Dark movie, and I was just like, wait, that happened? And they're rebooting their movie continuity, and I just thought, like, man, apparently I should have been watching all these movies. I'm getting really crazy. I might go back and try to catch up to watch the Dark Side War just to see how they cram that into like an hour and a half.
Yeah, I haven't been. I'm way behind on because I haven't seen Red Sun. I haven't seen Death of Superman. Is that?
Yeah, I keep meaning to watch that, and I just can't. I keep forgetting to sit myself down.
But again, I mean, that's something we could talk about for.
Oh yeah.
I mean, I hope until we can, maybe, or even we do try to do something like this weekly, just to stay in touch during the pandemic. So
I know, it'll give me an excuse to keep reading. It's for whatever reason, that's for me has been the one thing that has suffered is I'm not reading as many comics.
Neither am I. I mean, I just don't have the time to sit down, and between all the writing I'm doing and all that, it's just
like I've been cleaning up the office and some of my time, and it was like, oh yeah, I didn't even know that I had all 3 of the Superman Earth 1 books. I've only read the first one, and that was, years ago. I literally did not realize I had them.
Well, until then, if anybody's watching this, then here's where you can find stuff. I do a lot of interviews and put them on the YouTube channel and try to get them out, and I'll start trying to remember to include you on them.
Yeah, if I'm available, I'm more than happy to jump in.
Yeah, but that was a good one. That was a fun one we did. What was it, about a month ago with John Suntress?
Oh yeah, with John Suntress. It got me to go back and see. I didn't realize he was doing so much during the pandemic, and got to kind of catch up on like a bunch of cool interviews. Yeah. The Scott Snyder one and the Tom King one were both really cool. The Snyder one just got me really excited for death metal, because I think he's bad about keeping spoilers to himself. He's just like, say you're like, yo, that sounds awesome. Should you be telling people about that? It got me even more excited to read it. And then the whole Tuesday thing, Jesus.
Oh, I'll have to. I have to post. I've been holding on to it for about a couple weeks, but there was a show I did with, it was JC from Earthworld and some of the evil geeks, and there were a few choice things said about the new distribution of DC Comics and all that good stuff.
Yeah, I've had short conversations with the guys at Aquilonia about it, and it's like, yeah, well, we got them the same day we get everything, so like nothing has changed for us. And then Marvel just feel like I'm like an asshole, like doing all these like available on Tuesday covers, and it's like, who cares? Like, why are you being a jerk about this dumb thing? Who cares? Don't want to buy.
Wow, it's starting to rain here.
Well, I imagine that means it's also raining here. We're very close.
Yes, very, very close.
Geographically.
Well, I should probably maybe hop off here, and it's great catching up with you, and we'll definitely try to schedule something again next week and make it a regular thing.
Yeah, I'm down.
Cool.
And I got a job, so I can relax now.
Oh, good. All righty.
Take care, man.
You too.